Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast that spotlights bold leaders and breakthrough ideas transforming the world of business and technology. I'm your host, Dr. Leeanne Aguilar, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of platforms, communities, and the future of digital ecosystems. My guest today is Adam Broadway, CEO of Platform OS, a company helping innovators build scalable marketplaces, SaaS solutions, and communities of practice that connect people, products, places, and projects. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Leanne. It's a privilege.
I'm excited to learn more about your story. So let's dive in. Adam, you said you were a high school dropout, actually, who found your calling in technology. What drew you into computers and entrepreneurship at such a young age?
Well, I guess growing up with a work ethic was helpful, doing the lawns for people to make money. I grew up in a very economically challenging environment. So if I wanted something, I had to go out and work for it, get the money. And that's how that worked. So in moving into computing, it was because an uncle had a ZX80 Spectrum, and I saw that, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really cool." I love computing, and I like working hard because it's the only way to get ahead. So this fused, and I ended up getting a job as a 17-year-old at a local computer store in my hometown in Melbourne, Australia, Victoria. And the lady who taught me pretty much everything I needed to know as a foundation for computer science, Leanne Martin. She was an ex-Hewlett-Packard engineer. She took me on, mentored me, and the rest is history, as they say. But she certainly provided an incredible mentoring background. And I think I learned more working for her in 12 months than I ever would have done in a computer science degree at the time.
Right. Well, and that's often the case. I mean, just having a super good mentor and where you have hands-on experience, you're able to ask the questions, you're able to learn, by actually doing. I think that's often right. I am an academic. I fully believe in education. It's great. But you know, I can also tell you that I started my business from the ground up, not having a background in business at that point, and you learn from doing. And so I think that put you at a huge advantage at such a young age,
Definitely.
having that amazing mentor, it sounds like. And
Absolutely, without a doubt. I'm trying to track her down. So anybody out there, Leanne Martin, last I heard she was in Tasmania, Australia. Haven't been able to connect with her. I think she got out of tech and off the grid. But yeah, she is absolutely someone I have admired ever since.
Yeah, a good name, by the way, Leanne.
Yes, great name.
Right. So then you went from selling hardware to building software that Adobe later acquired. What mindset or lessons carried you through that transformation?
Well, as a business owner at the time, it was profit margin. So it's purely economic driven. It was going from hardware that became commoditized. And we're talking, the early days of CPUs with only 30,000 transistors on them. I think they're heading up to 40 billion transistors today and beyond. We're talking commoditization at exponential rates. And so we went from 300% margins down to 3% margins on hardware. But I knew I wanted to stay in technology. And it's like, okay, what could I build once and sell for $1 a million times? Software. So it was purely economics, but still it was in the tech space. So it was the area, an industry that I loved, whilst adjusting to the change in the way the industry was moving and still maintaining a profitable business. So hardware to software made economic sense.
And so at what or how long had you been in hardware before you made that transition to software?
Yeah, so I kicked off and we're building XT computers. That's the early days of the IBM compatible 8-bit processor. As I said, about 30,000 transistors on those CPUs. So that started. By the time so you had the 286, the 386, the 486, then the Pentium. By the time the Pentium came out, so there was 5-6 years of great times of making hay while the sun shines. But by that period, about 5 years, and then the writing was on the wall.
Right.
Hardware is not
it. But I think a lot of times it's just seeing that writing on the wall and being able to identify that upcoming opportunity. I think that's where, not everybody can see that, and seeing, the opportunity to make that pivot and change, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
Like
looking back, it's kind of that McKinsey mindset around the horizon, the three horizons, horizon one, two, and three thinking. And horizon two, it's how do we innovate enough with what we have? And horizon three being we have to change completely. What are we doing? And the horizon three thinking of complete innovation and pivot has been compressed down. Instead of thinking 10 years out, you have to think 2 to 3 years out now. And if you're
yeah,
not, you're going to
so true.
be left behind.
Right, everything is happening so quickly these days that you have to. Like, many people dream of creating something world-changing, but they hesitate to take the leap. What personal values or moments helped you step into leadership and innovation so
Mm.
fearlessly?
Well, I think, as we said before, having a good mentor who sets an example for you, that makes a big difference in creating a mindset around resilience, working hard on the hard work, being creative with your thinking, and then teamwork and culture. So I think that helped shape me, and being part of that early on set me on a course that I was able to leverage and then adapt and use for my future. And yeah, I definitely think that those qualities are resilience, working hard on hard work, because it's you can work hard, and many people do, but working hard on the really hard things with creativity wrapped around that, and then building that with a great team. That's where innovation can blossom and go crazy.
Yeah, and you mentioned teamwork and culture. What specific elements of teamwork and culture are required to, facilitate that kind of
Yeah,
growth and
I
innovation?
think those above three things, the resilience, the working hard on the hard work, and creativity. So those are three parts of the overall culture that needs to be pervasive across the team.
Okay, so not
So
just for the leader, but for everyone
for
in the team.
everybody on the team. And
Okay,
that's
okay.
not that everybody's doing the same things, of course. They're all bringing their own perspective, and there's diversity of thought. And hey, I don't think this is a good idea to do it this way. Well, why not? Let's discuss that.
Right.
So it's not about agreement on all topics. But the mindset and culture is that, well, at some point, somebody needs to make that decision. Usually it's
Mhm.
the CEO once they've gathered all of the information together, but they're listening and they're working with a team who feels enabled to give an opinion and to push back on leadership to say, no, this doesn't sound right. And here's why. And if they can back that up, leadership should be smart enough to think, to listen, and act on that information with ultimately the CEO making that decision in an informed way. But everybody on the team needs to be empowered to
Yeah,
feel like they can put their hand up and speak, that they are being encouraged to be creative and take a risk here and there. And they need to be working hard and resilient. So when things don't go their way, they don't spit the dummy and go, well, I didn't get listened to, therefore my ideas suck, and or I don't like this company, and they leave. Well, that
right.
you need to take the failures along with the successes, whether it's an agreement on your point of view or not, and continue forward as long as ultimately you all share the same vision and purpose.
There's
And that's
alignment.
the underlying driver. So
Yeah,
shared vision and purpose is ultimately what's going to ensure that people with different ideas on how to get to that shared vision and purpose can feel empowered, and that when their ideas may be rejected, it's still be part of the team, because we know our objective at the end of the day is still the same.
yeah. So the real alignment is what I'm hearing
Alignment.
on the vision, on the overall long-term goals of the company and making things happening and having that work ethic, that resilience to keep pushing through. And then I'm hearing for leadership, it's super important for them to be listeners, to be listening,
Mhm.
encouraging ideas, implementing them if they make sense. And I mean, I've heard other CEOs that I've spoken to talk about the importance of hiring people who are smarter than you and know more. And so if you're going to do that, you've got to listen to them, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And certainly smarter in those areas of expertise, because
exactly.
the CEO can't be the smartest person in the room. They might have the vision, they might be the smartest in terms of overall strategy. And so they should be if they're the CEO steering the ship and they're the captain, but they shouldn't be the smartest mechanic in the engine room.
Right. Yes.
That's the expertise of the mechanics and the people doing that work at the back in the back office. And so, yes, definitely surrounded by smarter people in those areas of expertise.
So, looking back, how did your early experiences shape the way you build and lead technology companies today?
Mm. I think the teamwork approach definitely. Been I've been able to experience building businesses with people with shared vision and a team behind that, and it's amazing. And then also as a single person founder, where you can't do it all yourself. So definitely the experience of having been in those teams has enabled me to succeed, because the idea of teamwork, the design thinking process, and the development methodologies around being agile, bringing everybody on board to the project, whether that's the often when we kick off a technology project, it's the product owner and the product manager and a senior person who goes, "This is the vision. Let's go. Let's get that team to kick off and do a deep dive." What we've learned along the way is let's bring in the QA team and the support team, who at the end of the process in delivering that product doesn't just get thrown here. Oh, we've built this product. Hey QA, can you check it out? And then after them, hey support team, you're now taking over to support this. They should be front loaded at the start of the project too. That's something we learnt through feedback from our
Yeah.
team. Hey, we're only just hearing about this project because it's already started. Could we be part of the start of the process? It's like, of course you should. They
Right. That makes
then,
sense. That's interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
That makes
yeah,
total sense.
it's not a pragmatic escalator of, okay, which roles are needed at which time, because that's efficient, it's cost effective. We don't need all these people knowing about this thing now. Well, okay, maybe if it's a secret skunkworks project, you've got to be careful, but you should have
Right.
representatives from every department at the kickoff, because they can start to think and plan and inject themselves into, hey, this particular product will need this kind of QA automation.
Hmm.
We wouldn't have known that otherwise, unless they were part of the initiation of the project. If they
Right.
just get brought in because QA does their work towards the start of the development process, and after discovery and functional specifications are created, they can't add value until they're introduced. And we just missed an opportunity. So, yeah,
Right.
everybody, there should be a representation of all parts of the business at the inception of any ideas.
Oh, that's really good advice, I think, because ultimately, I think it saves costs, even though, you might be, spending man hours up front. And yeah, there's more hours and overhead initially. Ultimately, it can save a lot down the
Yes.
road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mitigate the risk and also set
Hmm.
expectations for the client. Like support, they get lumped at the end. All right, here's the product now. Let's go over the support requirements.
Yeah.
Well, if we had known what we were actually building at the very inception, I could have been thinking about that, and I could have highlighted some little areas that we could have been in front of and not react, having a reaction to, but proactively
Hmm.
planning for if I had known up front. So there's so many
Right.
areas of the business that can add value
Yeah.
at the
That
inception.
makes total sense. Now, Adam, you've built platforms that power marketplaces, the software as a service solutions, and even government systems.
Mm.
What inspired the creation of Platform OS?
Well, we after selling our previous company to Adobe, which was software as a service, it was this all-in-one online content management, email marketing, e-commerce, blogs, forums, customer service tools. It was built as a white-labeled platform that web designers and digital marketing agencies could brand as their own. And then after Adobe acquired that SaaS product called Business Catalyst, all of our channel partners went, "Oh, let's put Adobe Business Catalyst on." They took their own branding off and put Adobe's branding on because it made sense. And
Right.
so, being in this software as a service model, I realized that, okay, this is a great way to help businesses leverage technology at a fraction of the price, but it's a subscription model. And ultimately, they don't own the schema, the database. They don't
Hmm.
own the business logic. They may be able to customize some of this. It's on a cloud service that's locked in on an infrastructure provider. After leaving Adobe and looking at the future, I went, okay, we're looking at more of a marketplace economy in the future where everything's connected via APIs. So marketplaces, whether they be products or services or communities of practice. And so we built a product called Near Me Marketplaces. And it was a non-technical person could sign up and build a marketplace for products, services, and communities without needing to be a developer. It was software as a service. But once we saw exit velocity for some of these marketplaces, in other words, they got to scale, they then wanted functionality and features that we couldn't really justify building because it was very niche.
Right.
And then a lot of them said, hey, we're going to get acquired. You own everything. We're just renting off you. So it's like, yeah, that's true. The future is going to be where those mid-tier and enterprise clients are going to want to own everything. And now, as we see with AI, they absolutely should. Instead of having 15, 20 different SaaS products that they're then desperately trying to integrate, that they
Mm-hmm.
don't own necessarily all of the data or certainly not the schema, how are they going to apply and build their own LLMs in a secure environment? And so we decided, let's go down the stack. Let's make Platform OS an abstraction layer where we automate the DevOps and provide a way for building limitless applications. So build limitless applications with automated DevOps and also be infrastructure agnostic. So whether it's AWS, Google Cloud, Oracle, or Azure, that we can deploy with the future proofing of being able to deploy onto bare metal. So what if they have their own hardware and their own data center? They should be
Right.
able to do that. 75% savings on infrastructure provider costs too. As
Yeah.
convenient as cloud hosting is, it's very expensive in the long run as you grow. So we definitely saw that having a platform, and as the evolution has gone, it's been software as a service, platform as a service, and then internal development platforms. And we wanted to be a platform which could become a managed IDP, internal development platform. So that future proofing has been great because suddenly then AI came along and people are scrambling to build their LLMs for a larger company and finding it almost impossible because they've realized that they've got 15 different SaaS products out there. Where's the data sitting? It's everywhere. Now we have
Right.
to pull it
Scattered.
back down into our own data
Yeah.
lake, and now we don't even own the IP where we've customize the business logic to fit our particular niche business need. And that sits out on somebody else's software, and we're licensing that. So we knew that we wanted to make sure that business owners, enterprise clients could own the code that they have developed for their business process, that they could build on an abstraction layout which allowed them to not have to worry about the DevOps, but they could define schema and own the data and even have their own secure server environments. And that was a fortuitous thought back in the day when we pivoted from near me marketplaces into Platform OS, as we've seen recently with so many people going. Well, we had the AWS outage 2 days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and that affected a lot of people. Not our clients and channel partners were not impacted by that.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that was seeing a little bit of the future. AI push certainly added to that choice
Right.
because people do want to own their, and we fully support AI capabilities out of the box, so vector database support, etc., where they could stand up a Platform OS environment that is secure. It's multi-tenanted, but just for them. And
Mm-hmm.
they can then start to build business logic. They can then have their own model context protocol, MCP, which is the AI agent protocol on the outside of that to protect their content. So instead of having all their data scraped and then somebody's monetizing that through ChatGPT, and that company's now left with nothing, uh, no
Right.
no no revenue from that knowledge, and certainly no attribution in a lot of cases. Platform OS is in a position where we provide out of the box all this capability that allows people to stand up and build their own SaaS product, their own platform, their own digital experience for their clients.
Yeah. So this concept of owning your data and IP is really central to your work is what I am hearing, and for so many reasons. I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, why is that so important in today's digital economy going forward for those considering your platform?
Well, data sovereignty is critical. Whether you've got things like GDPR, which is, hey, I'm the individual, I own it's my data, and you will take my personal information off your site if I request it. There's that. But at a business level, there's also the ownership of, well, I'm providing a service to customers, whether they be the general public or business to business. I'm developing IP. I need to be able to protect that. And if I'm building on some AI powered do it yourself tool, who owns that in the end of the day? Or if I'm building on a SaaS product, who owns that at the end of the day? I've invested in building this thing on a service that really owns it. I'm just renting from them. And I knew
Right.
that longer term and geopolitically, we see different, we've got different ideologies right now out in the world. And well, we want to deplatform them. Oh, no, we're going to deplatform them. I don't care where you sit ideologically or on a political scale, you should be able to have the ability to have sovereignty over your business logic and the data and the code. And so that makes a lot of sense right now too. It's interesting to see the world today and where data resides, who owns it, which infrastructure providers have access to that. We want to be able to go, okay, you can run it on wherever you need to.
Right. Yeah. So you have full power, full control over your business data, over the technology. And so, right, if anything does happen or you decide to scale up or sell, you have all the
Yes, it
capabilities
makes it
for doing that.
easier on that acquisition end as well, because somebody will come in, a private equity company or whoever's doing the acquisition, they're doing due diligence and they go, okay, oh, you're running all that on XYZ SaaS
Mm,
product. Okay. Versus Platform OS, yes, it
yeah.
is still a licensable product, but it can be run on their infrastructure. They might have an investment in a big data center and they want to move everything there. We can lift and shift.
Yeah.
There will be some support and a license agreement there, but it's not going to break the bank.
Exactly. Now, you've been ahead of the curve on integrating AI and vector databases. How has this shaped Platform OS's capabilities, and how do you see AI's role evolving in real world applications?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The AI stuff has thrown a spanner in the works for a lot of businesses. It's opened up opportunities for a lot of new businesses, and the gold rush is in. And so we see, oh well, it's the panacea, it's a silver bullet, it's going to solve. I can just go and do some vibe coding and I can produce this thing, and who knows what the quality of the code is it test driven development that the AI is spitting out. Again, it sounds too good to be true in some cases, and in other cases it is too good to be true. It is literally decimating certain niche industries. Translation services.
Oh,
We used to
right.
pay translation services for software. Nobody does anymore. So AI is definitely changing a lot of areas of the tech space. I think there's a lot of froth and bubble. I think there's the old throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Let's get rid of a whole department. In fact, interestingly, I think with this recent AWS outage, the follow up from that was a whole bunch of DevOps
Hmm.
was automated with AI agents that was allowed to push to their production environment. And whether or not that was directly linked to that outage, don't know. But certainly there's been other instances where the CEO has said, okay, we can get rid of this department now.
Right.
Marketing. Let's have somebody that knows how to use ChatGPT and they can spit it all out. And suddenly they've dropped off in their credibility because people can read between the lines. They know the authenticity. So
Yeah, absolutely.
AI is
Yes.
going to be absolutely instrumental in any system that has immutable properties. And by that, I mean any mathematical algorithm or equation that can be commoditized. AI is going to crush the human in that process.
Mhm.
But creativity is a human trait. All AI is a really fancy way of regurgitating zeros and ones because that's how that's stored on a disk. We're not changing the way we're storing data. All it is a layer of regurgitation of zeros and ones into something that seems intelligent, but it's artificial. It's not really intelligent. And they talk
Right.
about sentience with AI. It's not. It's just digital zeros and ones. And there's some cool algorithms and really smart people have built AI, and there's nothing against that. It's just really cool search conversational regurgitation at speed that
Mhm.
creates the illusion of intelligence, but it's not intelligent. So what happens when the snake eats its tail and AI is feeding off AI, particularly when it comes to creativity, because that's a human spirit thing. It's not a
Right.
computer thing. So if we're depending on AI for being creative, it's only based on the human input of creativity. And if we stop feeding the machine with new innovation or creative innovation, then there's only so far AI will go. As I
Right.
said, though, if it's a mathematical equation, if it's physics related, if it's thermodynamics, if it's all of the laws of the universe that can be proven over and over again through a mathematical equation, throw that into an AI and watch it go crazy with invention. Just amazing
Hmm.
stuff. We're seeing that with pharmaceuticals and DNA sequencing and all of these things. But in a business context where we have humans, we have different changes in legislation every other day or week or month or year, and we have subject matter experts who have been doing that job and they know the nuances of the human interaction. How can you codify that into an AI? And
Right.
that's where we will see augmentation,
Hmm.
and that's exciting. Subject matter experts who are augmented with quick ways to get to the point out of a whole bunch of data and highlight the on a dashboard. Oh, this is an error right here, and I know because you've done that and taught me that this is a problem and a pattern that I can match in the data and help you, expert, to do it faster and better. And that
Exactly.
that part will be exciting.
Yeah, I like that. Right. It's an augmentation. But like you
Mhm.
said, it's not creative. It can't be creative. It's actually zeros and ones, like you
It is
mentioned.
zeros and ones.
And I guess the danger to some extent is that people depend on it and become lazy. And so it can actually hinder creativity if we're depending on it too much. But alternatively, we can use it to augment our own creativity and make things faster and help it, organize our creativity, let's say.
Absolutely. It's a tool. And
It's
just
a
like
tool.
a blacksmith who is making amazing metal things and gets a tool that helps them, smash the metal harder, or they've got instead of using their mouth to blow on the flames, they've got a bellows. And then suddenly the technology enhances and now there's incredibly huge smelters and we can do things at scale and create incredible things. That's human innovation, and
Yeah.
they are tools to augment the human experience, not replace it.
Now, you often say Platform OS is about empowering others to build. What are some of the most inspiring or unexpected innovations you've seen built on your platform?
There's probably four that just come to mind straight away. We work with channel partners. These are digital marketing agencies and developers around the world who are building their own products, their own SaaS products, their own hybrid SaaS products and platforms on us. We've got a channel partner called SiteGlide out of the UK, and they have built the most amazing digital experience platform, which is building business websites. They're incorporating AI. They are doing these amazing workflows, and they're building a whole ecosystem of agencies that build on their software.
Hmm.
And that's awesome. It's like, wow, we're this multiplying factor. We're helping a company that's helping companies that is helping companies. And
Yeah.
that's really cool. And each one of those at any point could get their own dedicated environment, sort of spin it up and take control of their digital destiny. So that's really good. A learning management system actually built for the human resource management, SHRM, which is the largest HR resource management organization in the world. And they're partnered with SHRM, and it's called HR Jetpack. And what that organization did was they looked at learning management systems that were out. And there's a standard for LMSs. And they said, well, this is great for these scenarios, but for HR, it's very different. We're not going to try and shove a square peg in a round hole. Let's just use Platform OS, and we're going to build our own. And they have, and it's been amazing. And to see the growth of that, it's like, wow, people are building net new things and
Yeah.
making a difference. So that's been another. And there's a company out of Australia called Insights, and their product is back end as a service. They're our channel partners. And also on the government side, the Department of Buildings and the Department of Energy and Environment in Washington, D.C., have used Platform OS to massively streamlined the building inspection and approval process. And it's been amazing to see building inspection times go down from 3 weeks down to 3 days.
Wow.
Huge.
Very cool.
Very, very cool. And
Yeah.
then the land and expand for that project, we're now running their certificate of occupancy service. Their what they call wall check, which is before you do the next major build part, you have to make sure that the blueprints match up with what concrete's been poured and what beams have put up, so they're not sneaking in a couple of extra feet by the builders versus what's on the blueprint. So whole bunch of things, certification process for third-party inspection agencies, and again, AI augmenting, inventing new words, augmenting the administrative process, which is really helping as well. So, they're probably four big things that I'm like top of mind, really excited and proud
Excited
to have
about.
been part of.
Yeah, but global
And
reach. I mean,
global,
that's yeah,
yes, yeah.
that's great. Now you talk about communities of practice rather than just communities of interest. Can you explain the difference and why it matters for the future of work?
Yeah, communities of interest. We're all part of those. There's the Instagram, and there's the TikTok, and there's Facebook, and all the social media places. And anyone can sort of participate in that. And it's here's a cat photo, and here's another AI generated scam that I need to click through because I'm suddenly horrified by what it's telling me, and I think it's real and reality, and I'll go down the rabbit hole and I waste my time. So there's
Right.
communities of interest, sort of the hobbyist area and the time wasting area. There is an inflection point between the communities of interest and the communities of practice. The communities of practice is what I love because it's where the practitioners hang out. My life and livelihood depend on my community of practitioners. It's where all of the doctors might hang out at some conference a couple of times a year where they can swap knowledge and learn from each other. It could be where electricians go, and they're all practitioners of being electricians. And that inflection point is where those who are interested in that practice, there's in the Zen, is it Zen or Venn? The Venn diagram,
Then yes.
that little part in the middle where the people who are interested can kick the tires and participate maybe on the periphery of a community of practice to then be mentored into, and as they show uh, seriousness in learning and in get involved on the outskirts, suddenly get accepted into the community of practitioners. Now, whether that's because they went and did a college degree or a community college course, or they are doing an apprenticeship and they've spent 12 months working with a trade, and now they can go and say, hey, I did this. I've got a certificate of completion. I'm not qualified, but I'm really serious about this. They can be then brought in and mentored into a community of practitioners. The reason why we focus on that is because social media is done to death. I think it's already out there. It's pervasive. Who's going to build another Facebook?
Right.
Who's going to build another X or whatever social media platform? Communities of practice are very vertical, niche,
Uh-huh.
specialized, and I love that. And there's sub groups of those as well that come off of a particular vertical. I think that's where the rubber meets the road. And then taking that down even further, community of practice could be a local community physically. And we're
Right.
so disconnected from community that it's sad to see that people don't know their neighbors' names. Whether they're in a HOA with buildings close together, or it's just the general street. How many people, how many neighbors do you know? Or a high rise apartment block. How many people know their neighbor's name? I
Mhm.
don't know. So there's that community as well.
Okay.
I'd like to see the community of practice where people do generally connect with each other and know people's names and who's the expert and who to follow and who to ignore because I don't agree with them, but I know them. I
Right.
know them enough to not agree with them and sort of keep an eye out on what they're saying versus the community of interest and just general communities. How do we get some of that back?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's true too. If we get to know them more, I think maybe there's later or less of the trolling or the hate or because right now when everyone is disconnected, it's easy just to judge and to,
Absolutely. Yeah,
um,
that polarization. And that's where the
polarize.
problem
Yeah.
of social media and the algorithms that create that artificial animosity because Some of them are sock puppet accounts, and they're used prevalently in a
Mhm.
lot of social media things. They're just fake accounts, or it's one person with 20 accounts deliberately trolling, and then the
Right.
algorithms are doing their thing to push a narrative. And the human connection, the real human connection, is where we can get rid of those divides. That's such an insightful point.
Absolutely, right, and so, if you know your neighbor, you might not agree with them on everything, but at least you have compassion and understanding, and you can move the conversation forward, and
Humanity loves
yeah,
humanity. Yeah.
yeah, I like that. So, in an age of hyper individualism and competition, what makes collaboration such a powerful driver of innovation and sustainability?
Well, I think you already touched on it. The idea of being able to connect at the human level, respect the person, and maybe argue over the ideas and ideology creates an environment where we can have, so much more cooperation and collaboration, even if we don't agree on the core things. But a neighbor who politically might differ from you still wants to live in a safe, nice neighborhood where the community garden feeds the community. If you've got a community garden, and you can only get there by nurturing conversation and connection at the human level. So, yeah, I don't know if that answered the question exactly, but I
Yeah,
like that there is an opportunity for people to put a real human in the picture, and it's not just some avatar that
yeah,
they're railing against. How do we,
right, yeah.
how do we
Eh
connect the human behind the avatar?
Mhm. Exactly, and I think that is, yeah, a frustrating part of social media right now is that there is that coldness and that lack of humanity and, where people feel like they can just say anything, and it does have an impact because it is people behind the
It
avatars
is.
ultimately, and often we don't even realize the impact because we don't know who they are, but that doesn't mean there's not an impact.
And we don't know their backstory. We don't know what
Exactly.
influenced them to that. And in fact, some of that influence has been algorithmic. That's just what they've seen. That's what the echo chamber has told them, and they believe it. It's
Mhm.
interesting to see when people get together and have a meal, or they go on a hike together, and they enjoy the discovery of humanity again, and
Right.
getting away from the screen, getting away from the zeros and ones, and get into the real world, not the artificial world, how bridges are built.
Yeah. Now how do you see technology bridging local and global communities? As
Yeah, well,
in
I think it has to start with the local. The global influence is, I think, around commoditization and control. Everybody's a number. There's no personalization at the global level. It's purely about how do we control all the things. And this is where we see things like the digital ID, the central bank digital currencies, tying back to like China is a great example. The social score that you get as a citizen there is based on how you interact with the system. And if the
Hmm,
system says you're a bad person because you frowned during the lecture of a higher up and you got dinged on your social credit score, that's not great. But at a lower level, if we start at the community of who your neighbors are, do you know the names of your neighbors? Can you walk outside together and nod and wave and say hi, how you doing? And you know their name. In the case of supply chain issues
yeah,
or natural disaster, who's coming to save you? No one.
right,
No
right,
one's coming to save you. If you know your neighbor, you have so much more chance of survival. We saw
mhm,
that with the LA fires as well. The
right, true,
neighbors who had a pool and they said, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to attack this, even though there's no water in the hydrants. I've got three pools around me, there's people that put their little water pumps in there. They save their three or four houses around them because they were able to get water on the roofs and put out embers.
mhm,
What an amazing achievement. The global part would have just go, well, collateral damage. It's only a few people. It's
yeah,
only a few people. Well, you're not going to get that mindset in a small community. So it has to start at the local community level first and permeate up,
that
not
makes
the other
sense.
way around.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense, right? Just getting to know your neighbors, starting from that. It is great that we're in a global, era where we have the ability to connect with people all over the world. And maybe that helps some too, if we can reach out. I think that's part of the point with my podcast, even is interviewing people all over the world to see what
Mm,
they're up to. So it humanizes people in other
yes.
places, in other countries who might have different ideologies, and that's okay. They're still
Yeah,
people.
it totally is okay, and culture is awesome. I love that I can go to a Middle Eastern country and enjoy the food and the experience, and I love that I can go to a European country and have beautiful Italian and French cuisine, and the culture is very different in each place. And I don't want to force my culture on them, and I don't
Right.
want them to force their culture on me. But I do want to be able to get together and enjoy that smorgasbord of experience and different cultures so that maybe that can influence a little bit here and there, but I don't need to replace. I'm not going to tell you how you should run your culture
Exactly.
and vice
Yeah, yeah.
versa.
No, celebrate the diversity. So, I mean, because how boring would that be if it's all just uniform and we all
Absolutely.
do things the same way, and there would be no growth. There wouldn't be no innovation. There would be, no
That's
need.
right, and that's
So,
why I don't want commoditization at that level.
mhm.
Everyone's a
Yeah.
0 and 1. It's part of an algorithm. I think the diversity of culture is awesome, and we all should be proud in the cultures that we have developed in each of the countries that we live, and not force our worldview on others. Because just because we think that our way of government is the best way doesn't mean we go off and force that on somebody else. I mean, they've had thousands of years of doing that, and
It works for them. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we disagree on certain ways that they might approach things? Yes, but let that community figure it out. Just like at a local level, having a local community do the same thing that is done in a city versus a farming community wouldn't work.
Wouldn't work, right.
It just won't work.
Yeah, so I think just embracing a listening and curiosity, attitudes of
Mhm.
curiosity instead of just assuming. Because yeah, your way might work for you, but it may
Mhm.
not work for somebody else, and their idea might be what they need, it's perfect, so, yeah.
Exactly.
Now tell me about, I guess it's Hagar USA, the
Hagar.
the Hagar,
Yeah, yeah.
it supports trauma recovery. How has
Mhm.
that humanitarian work influenced your leadership and vision for community-centered technology?
Yeah, I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road for me. At the end of the day, if what you're doing doesn't have a net positive for humanity and for those who are the most uh, disadvantaged, and by that I don't mean, if you're living in a modern society, you have got every opportunity to find a job and do work. And if you're able bodied, you should be. So Hagar is actually working with women and children who are so impoverished. They've been trafficked, human trafficking. They're rehabilitating women and kids, boys and girls, and women in particular, to get them out of the cycle of human trafficking for diabolical purposes. And they are not taking them out of the environment. There's other organizations that rescue them. Hagar International will then help rehabilitate in a way that sets them up for success, teaching them life skills, getting them financed for a business, helping them in community homes where other women and kids are protected and educated. And these are coming out of environments that we have no idea of just how diabolical some of the circumstances that these women and kids are under.
Yeah.
So, working with that organization really helps me put into perspective what I do
Mhm.
as somebody who's very much connected to the modern world, and all, you can turn on a tap and there's clean water. I can flick on a switch and there's a light goes on. I'm flying in a plane at 30,000 feet and I've got high speed internet.
Yeah.
Uh, what's there to complain about? Everything is at my disposal in America. So being able to be part of an organization like Hagar, who are in the trenches helping those who, unfortunately, there's a lot of this happening in America too, which
Mhm.
is now
Yeah.
improving. The human slave trade is just terrible. And to put the human focus on that, and to then realize that what I do in my business could be of service to a greater purpose. And,
Yeah.
we talk about without a vision, the people perish,
Mhm.
a proverb. Without a purpose in your work, what's the point? And then at a greater level, what's the purpose in your work for a greater purpose? And so
Yeah.
Hagar provided that. My purpose in my work is to do something better than just be a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, especially when there's a bigger purpose. It gives you more motivation. I mean, there's more drive. I think there's, it benefits you. I mean, or at least me, on a soul level, right?
It's the soul and the spirit. It's
Yeah, yeah.
not, technology will never mimic that.
No, and to be able to really help someone, like really help someone, get out of these situations where otherwise they have no hope, they have no resources,
Yeah.
they don't. And I guess empowering them to live where they aren't ending up in that same situation, all
Yeah.
over them, where they can really get out and make their way, and
And they're
equipping
then
them.
able to help those, to see them supported, to be able to be a support to others because they
Mhm.
can relate to that. You know,
Yeah.
we an organization that goes in to rescue people can't empathize with them unless they've gone through it. And so being able to then enable those who have gone through it to help the next person up, it's incredible. So that is purposeful work, which
Yeah.
has, I think, more value. It's generational value. It's not just, hey, can
Oh,
I
yeah,
put more money in
absolutely.
the bank and then
Mhm.
die? What's my
Yeah.
legacy? What's my legacy really going to be?
Right. Right, and helping, yeah, a whole lot more people than just, like, your immediate family. So changing focus with AI's rapid growth, there's both excitement and fear. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's technology, like you said, that is replacing jobs, and so what's your take on the balance between automation and authentic human creativity?
Well, yeah, I think we touched on that earlier. The idea that immutable mathematical equations can be commoditized, and AI will make that even more exponential as far as engineering, medicines. That will be huge. So the balance is, where does that leave us with creativity? And so there is right now this pendulum that's swinging too far towards the AI as a silver bullet, as the panacea of awesomeness. And I think there's going to be a backlash with some communities. I think that they'll go, you know what? Where are the craftsmen? And I mean that mankind, women and men who are crafts, persons who can make things without technology. Where's that gone? And I fear that in some cases that's being lost. Where are the artisans of different
Mhm.
crafts? Will AI help that? If it can capture and help to teach others to be self-sufficient with that skill, that would be awesome. Yeah, there's a pendulum that's swinging too far towards AI, and it's like the dot-com bubble back in the day. It's certainly going to make automation around mathematical systems incredibly efficient, and like Moore's law with the creation of CPUs and chips, it's this massive upward trend, and AI will have that impact on a lot of things. And then on the flip side, where is that going to dumb people down to the point where they are just manipulated and controlled by those algorithms?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that we don't have that? There's the ethical questions around AI, and some countries have zero ethics or standards. It's how do we crush our competitors and how do we become a superpower in this? And
Mm.
other countries have, well, we have moral guidelines that ensure that we are, well, they're going to be left behind because they have gates that stop them from passing through because there's a moral imperative around what they're building. There's that conundrum.
Yeah.
What's China doing with AI versus the rest of the world?
Right. Yeah, it's still a new frontier, and like you mentioned, there aren't many guardrails in a lot of cases, and so I think we're still in that discovery phase, but I mean, I think the bubble hasn't quite burst, yet. I think it's
Mhm.
being tamed down a little bit, perhaps,
I
but
think we've seen enough failed AI projects in the corporate space for people to realize, oh, the ROI wasn't really there. In fact, we spent a lot of money and got nowhere.
mm,
On the other hand, there is a small percentage that are the trailblazers. They're on the bleeding edge of things that are seeing massive changes, and they're pouring a huge amount of money, and they're going to want a return on investment. And for many
right.
of these AI companies that have popped up, they're buying customers. They're subsidizing
Mhm.
the customer. And so at a certain point when their investment runway runs out, will that application even exist anymore?
Right, yeah, that makes sense. And Adam, finally, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs and innovators who want to build technologies that serve both business and humanity?
Mm. Um, I think you need to start with the humanity problem first, and then look at what are the tools that exist that could help that solve that problem. And if they're not there, then invent them. We've seen that with prosthetics. People who need technology to attach a new arm or a leg, or the evolution of that technology has been amazing. And the humanity part of it has been, how do we enable that person who had not the ability to feed themselves to suddenly not only feed themselves, but with new technology, open the door and turn a handle because there's robotics in there. And there's a chip that helps them. So I think start with the human problem and find the problems that fresh water. It's incredible now that, I don't know if you know Mr. Beast on YouTube. So Mr.
Yeah.
Beast has done these incredible things, and people say, well, he's doing that because he's getting paid for it. I don't care. He is solving the problem of water in African nations and around the world that NGOs with billions of dollars in investment haven't been able to do. And he's literally gone in and overnight provided fresh water wells to all of these communities. Now, what enabled that? Technology. He has a huge, massive audience. He
Hmm.
rallies his audience around the technology to get excited by it. And he goes and executes because he brings in people that are passionate about that human problem. So there's social media platforms that are enabling this human connection to solve a humanitarian disaster like water, fresh water. And good on Mr. Beast for doing that. You know, I might not watch all of his shows, but and same with cataracts. Now the
Yeah.
technology to solve blindness, and in third world countries where that wasn't available because there wasn't enough money in it, Mr. Beast goes in and then he gets in trouble for that too because I don't know, he can't win, but the technology is there to solve the problem of cataracts, of quick water well drilling, and he's going in and using technology to connect with a community who supports him in that and funds it.
Right.
So there's a
Yeah.
great example of it.
Yeah. So technology is very powerful. I mean, since we are globally connected through the internet, through technology, we're able to get the word out and connect with people, educate people. I think a lot of benefits. I mean, even though it does divide us in a way, there's more, I think, more good that can be done.
Yeah, there is
And
more good, and we're going to see that with we've got new technologies out, nanotech. We're understanding the human genome more. There's a balance between how, with CRISPR technology, we can cut out a little bit of the DNA strand and replace it with the fixed version. But how can that be militarized? And that's another problem. It's like the technology, oh, it's good for humanity. How can we militarize that as well? Soldiers, oh, no, 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 we just want to cure blindness. Oh,
Mhm.
we want to give people night vision. So there's this tension, and that's why communities at home and knowing your neighbor makes such a difference. Because if we get then the common ground and we want to look after, treat those around us as we would want to be treated,
Yeah.
will enable a upward flow to influence at a global level.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Adam, thank you for such a thoughtful and inspiring conversation. So,
Well, thanks for
you've
having me.
had quite the journey from entrepreneur to platform pioneer. How can those who are listening, who want to learn more about Platform OS or connect with you, how can they find you online?
Platformos.com, and contact me through the contact form. It will get to me through there, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Adam Broadway. I look like this. And if you're listening and not seeing me, just search for Adam Broadway Platform OS on LinkedIn. Be happy to connect with you.
Great. Thank you again. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow and subscribe to Industry Ignited for more conversations with leaders who are challenging the norm and driving meaningful change. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.